What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We have a conference to look forward to from Danielle Smith later on today. Again, join me for that. Roughly around 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central. Again, I'll probably start it a little bit before that, so keep your eyes out for that notification. She's going to address what's going to happen with Alberta moving forward. She's talked about freedom within Alberta. Now, Cian Bexty, as you've seen in another video I cited, had said that he's been told she will not be talking about referendum. She will not be talking about any kind of vote or a ballot moving forward for separation. Instead, many people have predicted that she's going to talk about her meeting with Mark Carney. She's going to talk about new deals that the federal government is maybe going to give to Alberta, or ensuring that our oil is going to be used. Whatever those deals that come in those conferences may be. I asked a simple question in a previous video. Do you think that this will fan the flames of those calling for a separation or a referendum in Alberta? I'm here today to tell you, I don't think that's the case. I think that regardless of what Danielle Smith says, and as I said in that video, it's one of those you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't kind of situations. You're going to see from Danielle Smith that if she supports a referendum, she's either going to lose a base of her support for those who want to remain part of Canada. And if she says she's going to work with Mark Carney, well, she's going to lose everyone who's calling for separating from Confederacy. One way or another, Danielle Smith is going to make some people angry today. And we'll see which way that's going to go. Again, specialists saying, or those with ears to the tracks are saying it's going to go the way of working with the federal government. We'll find out later today. I do want to cite an article that came out from Calgary Herald journalist Rick Bell, because this is where I'm saying, and I know it's not central on the screen for the headline, the text is, so just bear with me. He says, Albertans will get a vote on Alberta independence. Bet on it, baby. Alberta independence is now a hot button issue as Premier Danielle Smith prepares to speak with Carney on whether Ottawa will stop giving Alberta the shaft. Now, if we go into the article itself, there will be a vote by Albertans on Alberta independence. Everyone who has their ear to the ground agree. They say you can bet the farm on it. And just the fact there is almost certain vote in Alberta independence looming on the horizon will be a message heard across the country and right into the office of Prime Minister Mark Carney. Under the changes being brought in by Premier Danielle Smith, the question of Alberta independence from Canada will be put to a vote of Albertans in the following, if the following happens. If a total of 177,000 Albertans, names gathered over 120 days, say they want Alberta to have their say on Alberta independence in a referendum vote, Smith setting the magic number to 177,000 hasn't even been passed by the legislature yet. The federal election just wrapped up last week, and the Alberta Prosperity Project, as of Thursday afternoon, already has 126,000 people pledging to back a vote. Reportedly, there are other lists of individuals also wanting a vote. So again, those come from other sources. They're saying that the number is probably closer to 400,000 based on other outlets. Now, again, that's hearsay, grain of salt, but Alberta Prosperity, as of Thursday, was sitting at 126,000. Sources say the total number pledging to support their independence vote could hit 200,000 in the next few days. We're not even at the official day one of gathering signatures, and the door-knocking campaign to score more support is still to come. So again, this is why those who have said, hey, look, it's just small right now, it's not going anywhere, people should be a little more nervous, especially if you're wanting to stay in Canada, that there is support coming in here. Not only are more people pledging to support referendum on Alberta independence, many other sorts are most nervous. They're puzzled, perplexed, and they can't believe their eyes. What's going on? Where am I? And what the hell is happening? Not that long ago, the self-styled smart set thought that Alberta independence thing was merely supported by some crazy dudes guzzling wobbly pops in the back 40. It was the fringe of the fringe of the fringe of the province. That is a pretty good statement because, again, up until the last year or so, anytime you talked about Alberta's separatization, a lot of people, there were people in my social groups that backed it. They had good reasons for it. They even had good economic reasons to join the United States long before Donald Trump had mentioned 51st state. However, it was very far and few. I can tell you now that anytime I go out, anytime I'm in public, anytime you sit down at a restaurant or you're in the line at the grocery store, people are talking about it's time to leave. And it's not just people that, are kooks. These are people who say, look, I've got a business to run. I've got a future. I need a future for my children. I need to be able to afford to buy a home. I need to be able to afford to live. Alberta, even if you don't want to separate, there's no doubting that when you look at the base economics of what Alberta would turn into, should it branch off, the financial end of things would be absolutely mind-blowing as to how people would if you look at places like they say it could essentially, I'm not going to go too much into it, but people say that nonetheless, if we were to open up our oil and energy sectors, and we're separate from Canada, we could essentially be the next Saudi Arabia. It says the usual whining, hot air, baffling by blowhards, big hat, no cattle are the typical people that would question that. It looks like the same self-styled smart set are beginning to show signs of nervousness. We haven't seen this crowd this antsy since they figured US President Donald Trump might send in the Marines to invade Canada and we needed Big Daddy Mark Carney to save us. Premier Smith is now called a separatist by the Alberta NDP, though she says all she wants is a much better deal for Alberta within Canada and believes votes on issues concerning Albertans is the purest form of democracy. So again, she's not openly supporting it, but she's giving the option to Albertans. That's the best way she could have dealt with this. Because the NDP, again, Naheed Nenshit has already come out saying, well, she's a separatist. Imagine if she actually would have backed separation, the attacks that would have came forward. Now, again, based on this paragraph alone, I believe Danielle Smith's press conference will be more about working with the government. Again, we're going to see where that goes. Others say Smith is simply fanning the flames of separatism. No doubt they feel Danielle Smith should be afraid of how Albertans might vote, though the Premier points to a poll saying right now Albertans would vote no to independence. On Thursday, Smith says she will be speaking with Carney very soon this week. Carney must be heard about the independence vote issue and can connect the dots, adding to the royal pain in the neck he does not need. So again, what kind of deal is Alberta going to get from Mark Carney? I sure hope it's nothing that makes people back up and say, okay, let's just not get our tail feathers ruffled. Let's find a way to work. No, we've had too much abuse. Enough is enough. Also, or it says, alas, sorry, Carney is already backing the cap on oil and gas emissions, which is bad. He does not want to deep six the No More Pipelines law. That's bad. When in Calgary, he would not commit to an oil and gas pipeline or LNG project. That's bad. Carney dismissed Danielle Smith's demands, how Ottawa should mix all the liberal laws and regulations hurting Alberta, which again is bad. And the Prime Minister is surrounded by the very people responsible for screwing Alberta over the past 10 years. Real bad. It's not just the last 10 years. We're talking about multiple decades. How confident is Danielle Smith that she can get through to Carney? It depends on whether we have pragmatic Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney as Prime Minister or whether we have environmental extremist. Keep that in the ground. Phase out fossil fuels, and author of the book values Mark Carney as Prime Minister. What does Smith feel the mood is out there for Alberta beyond the chattering classes? The Premier says views are split. Lots of folks are sending texts and emails asking her to give Carney a chance to see if he will change course to try and make Canada work. Smith says others are fed up or done with Canada. A meeting of the UCP members of the legislature on Friday, the Premier will hear what Albertans are telling them. Again, that's what's going to be the issue of today's press conference. Smith will present Alberta's case to Carney. She wants to reset the relationship with the federal government. I don't think that's possible. I think it's too late. I'll gauge the result based on his actions, and we will see if Carney knows he's playing with fire. Not likely. Not likely. Any deal that Mark Carney's going to give is going to come with strings attached, and Albertans, I don't think, are stupid at this point. I think they know that any government you really can't trust these days, which is why those who are fanning for separatism are looking for separatism without the involvement of political parties. People have had enough of unilateral governments that are trying to steal from them, that want to make sure that they're essentially battery farms. They're just going to work for their benefit. Um, the question of where Alberta stands. It's a daunting one because I see much support. Again, I hear everyone in my region talking about separating. You hear people pushing for that narrative. A lot of people push back and say, well, what about First Nations? What about the fact that you're landlocked? Well, if you look at Switzerland, if you look at Austria, if you look at Sweden, many of them landlocked, they do just fine. When you look at Venezuela, they have access to seaports, not doing so fine. The argument that Alberta is going to struggle being landlocked is absolutely ridiculous. It is nothing that is backed up with any kind of financial or scientific fact. Again, we have already pipelines that access the United States, they access other markets. Even if Alberta were to separate from Canada, that doesn't mean that Canada wouldn't want our energy. It just means more money for Alberta. So, over the next, I don't believe, again, a fast and quick referendum is what's going to win the votes. I believe that what people need to do, and where again Danielle may lose the support of those chiming for referendum, is they need to sit back and wait. They need to watch things get worse. It needs to get worse before it gets better for Albertans and before we're going to get that support. I think people need to see that Mark Carney and his government are not going to change anything. They're just going to dress it up differently so that people believe it's change, but people will see the effect when they look at their bank accounts, when they look at their wallets. I think once you get to that point, that's when you'll see more people jump on board for referendum. I think that's when you'll see more support than we've already garnered, which again is mind-blowingly astronomical so far, by the way, because again, 5 years ago, if you'd have told me people were going to be rising up for referendum, I would have said, nah, it's never going to happen. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think Albertans are going to forget pretty quick if they get a good deal from Mark Carney or what looks like a good deal? Or do you think Albertans are smarter than that and they're going to push back and we'll definitely see a referendum vote? I think Rick Bell's nailed it here. I think he's absolutely correct that one way or another we'll see a vote. Whether that vote succeeds or not is up to anybody's guess at this point. But I definitely think at some point in time we will see a vote in the near future. Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you hit that subscribe button, because we're so close to 100,000 subscribers, you turn on your bell for notification. Join me live this afternoon again for Danielle's press conference, somewhere around the vicinity of 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central. I'll probably start it a little earlier just for safety's sake. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show, where I'll be sitting down with Mrs. Fringe to talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up in the week ahead, as well as back and forth within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.